Ted Cruz has just plummeted in popularity, even among the Republican base. I'm sure there's a number of reasons for that, but the most recent thing was the trip to Cancun right in the middle of a giant crisis in Texas with the winter storm and the power going out everywhere. That's one thing, but overall he's just weaselly and annoying and obnoxious and nasally, and he's just insufferable. So apparently even the Republican base is catching on to that fact. I want to show you some of his CPAC speech, and then we'll break it down.
You know, last week, we lost the great Rush Limbaugh. I was so blessed and so fortunate to call Rush a friend. And Rush understood the power of liberty. You know, before there was Hannity, before there was Tucker, before there was Ben Shapiro or Steven Crowder, before there was Donald Trump, there was Rush Limbaugh. And before there was Section 230, there was something called the Fairness Doctrine, which gave leftists in Washington the power to silence views they didn't like. We got rid of the Fairness Doctrine, and Rush Limbaugh started by going on one AM station, and then a second AM station, and then a third, and then a fourth, and then a fifth, and the voice of liberty spread like prairie fire. And let me tell you right now, in Los Angeles, there's some skater kid who's 19, who's told that it's hip and chic and cool to be a leftist socialist man, who's going to hear a message, wait a second, these guys don't want me to speak, think, have fun, do what I want to do. The message of liberty is profoundly subversive. And the Republican Party is not the party just of the country clubs. The Republican Party is the party of steel workers and construction workers and pipeline workers and taxi cab drivers and cops and firefighters and waiters and waitresses and the men and women with calluses on their hands who are working for this country. That is our party, and these deplorables are here to stay.
He's so full of shit. He's so full of shit. Pfft. Who, me, bro? And the Republicans, bro? We're the party of the working people, bro. That's what it is. Really? Tell me why it is that they just voted on the $15 minimum wage in the House of Representatives. All but 2 Democrats voted for a $15 minimum wage. You know how many Republicans voted for it? 0. 0 Republicans voted for a $15 minimum wage. And he just said, the GOP is the party of steel workers and construction workers and pipeline workers and taxi cab drivers and cops and waiters and waitresses, bro. Waiters and waitresses, bro. He cares so deeply about waiters and waitresses that he wants them to continue to make starvation wages. Even in the Senate, you have some Republicans who are nominally for some kind of increase in the minimum wage. They just released the bill. Tom Cotton and Mitt Romney. They want the minimum wage to be $10 an hour. So understand this. They want to raise the minimum wage from not a living wage to still not a living wage. That's what Tom Cotton wants to do. That's what Mitt Romney wants to do. That's what a handful of the other Republicans want to do. If any of them are even in favor of raising the minimum wage, because a lot of them, the majority of them, are not in favor of raising the minimum wage. And by the way, that's a giant fuck you to your own base, because a majority of Republicans in the base want to raise the minimum wage to a living wage. In fact, the bill that had the $15 minimum wage in it, it polled 60% among Republican voters, and 0 Republican politicians voted for it. So, I mean, I can't stand... The fake populism pisses me off more than anything, because at least in the past, they would basically wave the flag of, I'm an elitist, and I'm for the establishment. Now, they pretend like they're for the people, and they're populist, but they're not. All their policies spit in their face. Ted Cruz, argued when Democrats proposed this idea of getting rid of money in politics or strictly limiting money in politics, Ted Cruz came out there and said, these people hate free speech and they're against the First Amendment. He was arguing for unlimited billionaire and corporate money in politics. And now he has the nerve to turn around and say, I'm fighting for the little guy, bro. I'm for steel workers and construction workers and pipeline workers and taxi cab drivers and cops and waiters and waitresses. This guy is anti-union, anti-minimum wage, total free market Kool-Aid drinking clown, and he's not for policies that help workers. There's so many other parts of this that I find interesting, too. See, he's trying to do the whole, we're the edgy ones, bro. And so he says, the message of liberty is profoundly subversive. I like his point of, somewhere there's a kid in Los Angeles, a skater kid. And he's been told it's cool to be a leftist, bro. And then here's how he describes what leftists are like. They don't want me to speak. They don't want me to think. They don't want me to have fun. They don't want me to do what I want to do. That's your description of people who disagree with you politically, is that they don't want you to speak, they don't want you to think, they don't want you to have fun, and they don't want you to do whatever you want to do. I mean, he's not having an honest conversation. He's just strawmanning his opponents. If you really want to get literal about this, who really is against you doing what you want to do? Because leftists, if they're in favor of democratizing the workplace, they don't even want you to have a boss that can bark orders at you. Ted Cruz wants you to have a boss who's basically your dictator and your tyrant, and whatever they say you have to do. But he pretends like he's in favor of liberty? What a joke. He brings up Rush Limbaugh's. Rush was the biggest proponent of liberty. Rush Limbaugh was in favor of locking up drug users and people who sell drugs. He's a drug warrior. At the same time, he was popping so many OxyContin that he went deaf from it. I'm not kidding about that. He was doing drugs like nobody's business. And at the same time, he's on air advocating that if you do drugs, we should lock you up and throw away the key. And you're going to talk about Rush cares about liberty? Define liberty, bitch. How so does he care about liberty? He supports liberty in the same way that Ted Cruz supports liberty, which is he supports what they think is the right of business owners to control the lives of their workers. That's the kind of liberty that he supports. A tyrannical, dictatorial, capitalist version of liberty. And by the way, I don't know. I actually don't know. Is Ted Cruz a drug warrior? He certainly was in the past, right? Is he still a drug warrior? So they don't actually support, they use the word freedom and liberty, and they don't actually think of the practical implications of what it would actually mean to believe in freedom and liberty. And it's so telling the way he spoke about Rush there. And Ted Cruz was not the only one at CPAC to do this, but there's this real sense that Rush Limbaugh is the godfather of the modern Republican movement. And I think that's such a damning admission. They don't even realize how pathetic they look when they say that stuff. Because, Rush Limbaugh's politics, it's movement conservatism is the least sexy, least subversive, least outsider movement of all time. The whole point of it is to cut taxes for the wealthy and cut taxes for corporations and give billionaires whatever they want and deregulate so that they can screw working people and keep wages for working people low and do endless wars. This is what Rush Limbaugh was in favor of. The biggest establishment ball tickler of all time. And Ted Cruz is like, yeah, he was our guiding star. He was our guiding star. He's the person that, set the table for Hannity. Imagine acting like Hannity's should be listened to about anything. Hannity, Tucker, Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder. Look at that world that he's in. He's so drunk on partisan brain worm Republican politics that he can't see straight. He's bringing up charlatans and frauds and con men as if they're like, these are real intellectuals and philosophers who are leading the way. So it's pathetic. The fake populism is insufferable. Not even for a living wage. Not even for pro-union legislation. He himself is in favor of the endless wars. It's a joke. He's a clown. And by the way, now he's at 2% in the polls in the CPAC straw poll. He was number 2 in 2016 running against Trump. Now he's at 2%. So apparently the smarmy, I'm Ted Cruz. Me, why don't you like me? Me. The smarminess and the weaseliness has just engulfed even the Republican base where they listen to this guy talk and they're like, he's one of those guys that the second he starts talking, you're like, hey, do me a favor, shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up, please. I don't want to hear it. I don't hear anything you have to say. You're annoying as fuck. Shut the fuck up. I would greatly appreciate it if you shut the fuck up. He's one of those people. And even the Republican base is getting it now that, like, he's just unbearable. He's unbearable in every sense of the word. And this was just some choice snippets from his CPAC speech proving that point.